This week on the Dibley Diaries, we're thinking about prayer and what it means to pray, how Jesus prayed, and all those sorts of things. But one of the things that I've observed in small rural church communities that can be a real problem is if you have different groups of people who believe that their way to pray is either the only way to pray or the best and holiest way to pray, and that the way that other people pray is somewhat second best or deficient. This is more acute in rural church settings because people are bound together geographically, not by churchmanship. So in the same church community, you may well have some people who behave as if they believe that the Book of Common Prayer is the only way to pray, it's the only proper way to pray, it's the only really holy way to pray. And yet in the same church community, you might have people who believe that completely unstructured prayer led by the Spirit from the heart, and completely spontaneous prayer might be the only, the holy, the proper, the best way to pray. This brings division because it seems to come with a heap of judgment, and people who may not even necessarily be thinking, I have this bias, but they do, and they speak in meetings and words like, well, that's the best way, that's the proper way, that's the only way to do it, when God really doesn't mind. What God minds is whether we're praying or whether we're not praying. So it's really important for us to not bring judgment into those situations and to work to provide a variety of prayer opportunities, and to understand that one form of prayer is not better or more holy than another form of prayer, but prayer is the most important thing. Thought for the week this week is thinking about prayer. The Bible passage that we have for this week, the Gospel passage, is John 17:20-26, and in that passage Jesus is praying for us. Jesus is praying for us, the believers who are going to come. What does that mean for us? And how does that make us feel that Jesus is praying for us? I sometimes feel quite emotional about that Jesus is praying for us, the believers, that we will be one with Jesus and one with the Father, that we will be joined together. And I find that a reassuring thing and a moving thing that Jesus is praying for that for us. It's a bit of a funny Sunday, this Sunday. So it was Ascension Day last Thursday, and it's Pentecost next Sunday. So there's kind of 10 days between Ascension and Pentecost, and Jesus at that time asked his disciples to pray and encouraged us to pray. And I wonder if you've thought about what praying more might look like for you. Some time ago there was an initiative called the Thy Kingdom Come initiative. It started off very simply by just kind of encouraging people to pray using the words of the Lord's Prayer. I think it started off at just once a day, but then it has grown and grown and really encouraged people all the way around the world to pray in this time between Ascension and Pentecost. And there are many things in the world at the moment that we would like to pray about. There are some really big things going on in the world that seem not good things going on, things where we pray that God would act to intercede, to make a difference. There are all sorts of places where there's war and there's people starving and there's injustice and there's really difficult situations, and places where we want to pray about things that we want to pray about. Things that we want to pray, maybe that the whole world is more in tune with God and with God's purposes and with God's kingdom. How you do this might be really different to you as an individual. I wonder what it would look like for you. How would even setting an alarm on your watch to remember to pray at midday every day, even if it's just the words of the Lord's Prayer. That's not really just. That would be a big thing. That would be a big thing to think about. Maybe you're a journaling prayer. Maybe you like to write down the words as you pray them. Maybe you're a live stream prayer. Maybe you like to join in with others who are praying on a live stream that's available for you to join in. Maybe you're an art and craft prayer. Maybe you're an icon writer prayer. Maybe you're someone who likes to pray when you're out on the hills, in the mountains, where Jesus also went to pray sometimes. Or maybe you like to be in a church building where the prayers of the saints have been collected for centuries and centuries. Maybe you're one of all of these things. Maybe there are different seasons in your life. Maybe you were once one sort of prayer. Maybe you were a very loud and noisy prayer. And maybe you're a quiet, silent prayer now. Maybe you were a drawing prayer. Maybe you were a prayer who encouraged others by praying in small groups. And the encouragement of this time between Ascension and Pentecost is that we remember that Jesus prayed for us. We remember that Jesus prayed for us. And we model what Jesus did ourselves by praying for the world. By praying for the world to be close to God and for his kingdom to come. So in this time between Ascension and Pentecost, what is it we can do? How is it that we can pray? How is it that we can pray remembering that Jesus himself prayed for us as believers? The Dibley Moment of the week this week is about one of the hottest controversies on prayer in the Church of England and the wider church in the UK. Should you pray for God to provide you with a parking space? If you're in a car park and you can't see one, if you're in a town, maybe a town you don't know, and you can't find somewhere to park, should you be praying for God to help you find a parking space? Or does God really not want to be bothered with something so small and trivial? This is a big controversy. In any church community, you will be able to find people who think you should pray for a parking space and those who think it's too trivial a thing to be praying for. The great praying for a parking space controversy. Well, that's it for the Dibley Diaries for this week. I pray that you and your village, however large or small, have a really blessed week and a week full of prayer.